Transformation, the place where spirituality and transformation unite. Host Miss Raina imparts truth so that you can break through your limiting beliefs and evolve into a deeper consciousness. As you go about your day, remember, before every breakthrough, there is a breakdown. And now, let's start the show.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Transcendental Transformation. I'm your host, Miss Raina, and today is Tuesday, October 26, 2021. As always, we're coming live from the Sirius Star System studios right here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I hope everyone is well. So this Sunday is Samhain, and I am excited because this is my absolute favorite holiday, and I'm just so excited. It's just one of my favorite times of the year. Spring and summer are still my favorite seasons, but the favorite time of year has got to go down to Samhain. So what are you guys' plans? What's going on? I want to know what's going on. Are you guys planning on dressing up? You guys have any plans? You guys gonna turn off all your lights and hide from all the trick-or-treaters? What do you do? I'm gonna be going to my friend Megan and Joe's house as always and scare the little kids. I have this really cool outfit where I dress up in all this dark stuff and this hooded stuff, and I have a I have a mask that really scares a lot of kids, and what I do is I hide in the sun. We have Megan and Joe have an awesome setup. They have a lot of they've turned their whole yard into basically a big giant spook house, and I hide in the trees and wait for the kids to come out, and then I just kind of pop up behind them and give them a little scare. So that's always fun, isn't it? So I'm excited as always. Plus, it's candy. It's one of the few times I allow myself to eat candy without any form of regret whatsoever. So, but let me know what you guys are doing, and because I want to know. I want to see pictures too. I want to see pictures of all your guys' costumes. So, all right, guys. As always, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Periscope is no longer. Periscope moved in with Twitter now, so just follow us on Twitter, and you'll be able to see it. LinkedIn, we're still on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is going to be being canceled out. I guess it didn't work with Restream and all this stuff with LinkedIn. I guess LinkedIn was having so many issues, they just decided to nix it. And of course, we're on live with Daily Motion, and the replays will be linked in the description below. So all right, guys, let's see. Today is it's going to be a show that we very rarely touch upon. We're going to be talking about the darkness within people, because, one of the things that I hear the most is, well, this person has evil, or this person did something. They have a darkness in their soul, or just because someone's really angry all the time or aggressive, or maybe they do something, let's say murder or rape or something, and we tend to think of these people as dark and evil. And, the question is there really evil? Is there really darkness in a soul? Can a soul truly be dark? Can a spirit be dark? Is there really such things as evilness or demons or whatever, our society tells us? Because, that goes around a lot. And I know that it's that time of the year, and there's a bunch of haunted movies and a bunch of scary movies, and a lot of them have demons and evil spirits, and like Annabelle and all that stuff that say dolls are haunted and possessed by evil spirits. But is that really true? And that's really what I want to start off with. I want to always start off with the truth. And in order for us to get to the truth, we have to look at perspective, right? Because isn't truth a lot of times perspective and subjectiveness? For most people, it is. So how do we find the truth? If truth a lot of times is subjective due to our perception, and then is it really truthful? Is it not really truthful? A lot of times we have to look at that selves, because a lot of times what we take as truth isn't. And so we have to be able to look at the ideas of what we're analyzing and what we're believing in order for us to realize that, hey, this may not be true, this may be true. And so what we got to do is we have to sit there and look and say, okay, well, what beliefs do I have that are true? What beliefs do I have that are not true? And when we look at that, it's really hard to decipher, isn't it? Because a lot of times what we've been told may be true or may not be true. A lot of times what we've been told by others isn't true. We've just accepted it as the truth because we've heard it by so much. And the way our brains work is this, is that if we've heard something enough and a lot of people agree on it, it's a natural instinct for us to agree on it and say, wow, that must be truthful, even if it's a complete lie. If tomorrow all the media said, you know what, if you eat part of your shoe, you're going to gain 10 years on your life. I guarantee you millions of people will start eating part of their shoe, especially if there's doctors that go on and say it. Doesn't mean it's true. It just means that we learn to accept things because for some reason it's in our innate thinking that we tend to try to adapt to ideas that society does. And this is very dangerous. And why do I say this is dangerous? Well, it's dangerous for the fact that it doesn't allow us to grow. It doesn't allow us to think. It doesn't allow us to push ourselves past the ideas that we've conformed to. And that's really what we're trying to find, because when we want to find truth, is it based on, is what we believe to be true based on our subjectiveness? Is it based on our perception? Or is it based on cold, hard facts? Because me, as spiritual as I am and as open and to the many possible ideas in the universe and ways of life, I still want to know the facts. Okay, well, if I channel this idea and before I accept it as truth, even if I'm getting it from the other side or my guides or whoever, then why is it true? What presentation does it bring that is in truthfulness? And that's where I have to learn to believe in, because I have to learn to understand what is truth. And in reality, isn't owning ourselves really true? Isn't the only thing in the universe us that's truthful? And we have to ask ourselves that, because the answer is absolutely. We are, in truth. We are the most absolute truth of the universe. And you're going to ask yourself, well, what do you mean by that? Well, what do I mean by that? I mean that we are the absolute truth. We are the reflection and the ideas and the consciousness of what we call the universe, whether we call it a God, the universe, the source, supreme being, whatever we call it. We are that absolute truth in our own recognition. And so everything that we experience, everything that we understand has some truth to it. And so then how are there lies? How is everything, because I know you're going to say, well, Miss Raina, everything you always say, everything else is a lie, or everything in the world is a lie. Well, that's because it's not truth. Our experience of who we are, if I go and I put on, let's say like you and I go to an amusement park and we go on a roller coaster. And we go on this crazy roller coaster and I'm loving it. I'm having a good time. I'm laughing the whole time. And you're clinching on, screaming, terrified, and just waiting for it to be over. And I get off the ride thinking, wow, man, that's great. And you get off the ride, holy crap, that is crazy. I am never going to ride that ride again. That was too much. Are those both truths? Absolutely. Was the ride itself crazy or no? It wasn't. It was how we perceived our perception due to our subjectiveness, how we perceived it. So my perception and my idea of this was truthful. I thought it was a great ride. Whereas you thought it was a crazy ride and you didn't like it. And yes, that is true too. And so that very instance, our experiences become truthful, but the ride itself is not. There was no perception. The ride is just being its ride. And that's what life is about. Life is just being life. There are ideas everywhere. It's what we choose to perceive, what we choose to subjugate ourselves to, and how we choose to interpret the information that we're dealing with is how we're going to channel and how we're going to understand the world around us. And that in its very self is the understanding of how we get to self, consciousness that is, right? How we perceive ourself and the experience around us is how we're going to interact. Because if we're trying to gain truth, then we have to acknowledge, one, who we are, what we're experiencing, and what we're perceiving in our daily basis. And that's where we have to figure out. That's why we believe things, because we don't investigate. I mean, let's be truthful with us. How many of us actually research the stuff that we do? And I'm sure some of you may say, yeah, I research, but do you really research, or do you listen to a couple sources that you trust and just accept it as truth? Because those sources could be telling misinformation, right? I hear it all the time. I hear a lot of people listen to programs like NPR and different things and just like all these different and I'm not knocking on NPR, by the way. That's just the first thing that came to my head. Alex Jones, all these other people, and all these news sources, all these things, or whatever it is. Even on social media, we go on YouTube and we just type in spirituality. We start listening to someone, and because they look pretty and they look flashy or whatever, we just I like them, attractiveness, and we just start accepting what it is. That's not acknowledging and gaining truth. That's not experiencing who we are. What that's doing is it's taking us away from the ideas of what we're experiencing, and we're subjecting ourselves to the ego. And that's really where we get ourselves in trouble. When we have ideas like demons and evil and murderers and all this crazy stuff that goes, that person's dark, I sense darkness in this person. That's really what we're subjecting ourselves to, is our ego. Because we don't really understand that. When you walk, I grew up in haunted houses, as you would say. I grew up and this house by itself has people coming in and out of it all the time. And if you don't believe me, ask Caleb, who is answering the questions on the stuff. He's sitting behind me behind this board. Ask anyone who's come in this house. They see people all the time. Okay. Now, does that mean it's evil and spooky? And yes, I get it. It's Samhain. It's good to go with the theme. But every time we enter an old house or something that we are not familiar with, don't we sit there and feel uncomfortable? Don't we sit there and think, ooh, this house must be haunted, or there must be something wrong with this part, or there must be some... It's because it is in our ego to have our imagination grow wild based on misinformation. And that's really the key. It is the misinformation that we are subjecting ourselves to due to our ego. When our ego steps in, it does not allow us to see the truth of reality. It allows us to run rampant. Oh my God, I saw this scary movie of Freddy Krueger coming to life in our dream. And let me tell you something. As a child, that movie stressed me out for a long time, because we grew up in what you guys would call a haunted house in Chicago. And that house, I would see people all the time. And seeing movies like Freddy Krueger, where people where something was coming after you in your dreams, I had a hard time translating that. But once I understood that movie was fiction and life was nonfiction, and there was a total difference between the two, I realized that my ego was going to let me go and let me run rampant any which way, even if it causes all sorts of chaos, and not allow us to see who ourselves are. Because when we see ourselves, we are more capable of understanding and handling who we are and the information received than we do when we are bounded by misinformation. And that is one of the lessons I want you guys to understand. I want you to understand when you are being led by misinformation and when you are being led by truth, because the two are not the same, and there is a difference between how you perceive things. And that is not the same. Remember, being on the roller coaster and the ride is not the experience. It's how you're perceiving the information that you're experiencing is whether or not what you're going to come up with. And if you're perceiving things from the ego, then it's going to be skewed. Okay, so we always must understand the only way to acknowledge truth, the only way to find this is to understand who we are in everyday life. And the reason why I'm leading off with truth in this show is because I want you guys to understand how we get to the point of understanding if there's such things as darkness or evil souls or anything like that, or demons and that, or angels and all this stuff that we hear. Because they're, whether or not they're true doesn't mean maybe there are demons, and maybe maybe they're not what we think we are. Maybe there are angels, and maybe there are spirit guides, and maybe there are these things that we hear about, and maybe they're not anything like we think we are. How do we know what it is? A lot of people will sit there and say because they've read books or they've had these experiences, but a lot of people are fibbers when it comes to that stuff. So the things that I want you to take away: the ego. Remember, when we understand the experiences through ego, when we chase away, when we chase things, when we're spending a life of chasing, denying our emotions, denying the situations, lying to ourselves, believing in things just because everybody else says it. Right now, there's a lot of stuff going around the world, and everyone's in uproar just because everyone on TV has said it. And you see how chaotic it gets? It gets very chaotic. This is why it is so important for us to understand the truth of the situation. If you're unwilling to learn by your experiences and unwilling to learn new information, this show will teach you new information. If you're unwilling to grow, or you judge me based on my looks, or maybe I stutter, or maybe this happens, or maybe because I'm not in some fancy studio with some background, with some nice background, then we're closed off to learning the information that is. And this is why many of us see ourselves as the victim, see ourselves in a low vibrational state, and continue to sabotage ourselves in seeing who we need to be. So let's talk about let's talk about good versus bad. Now, is there good? Is there bad? Well, if you've been listening to my show, is there? And you're going to say absolutely not, right? Because Miss Raina says there is no good or bad. There is no right or wrong, positive or negative, backwards, forwards, right? There is none of that, right? Well, why do I say that? Why do I say there's no good versus bad? Because in your world, there is. Well, if someone's doing this and they're being nice and they're helping people, well, that's good. If someone's stealing and being mean and being hurtful and being angry and hurting someone, killing someone, raping, well, that's bad. That's being a bad person. If I walk into a room and all of a sudden there is an entity or there's a spirit around it and it starts acting out, throwing books across like some of these hokey pokey shows that you see on Travel Channel and other things, which are totally fraudulent, by the way, and that then all of a sudden, whoa, those must be bad spirits. And the ones that make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside, well, those must be good spirits, right? Well, that's the biggest mistake, right? Is judging things we don't know. These are judgments. Good and bad is a judgment. You don't know what's being good. You don't know what's being bad. We have a society that says, well, you have to be good. You have to be bad. You have to, or you don't, you have to be good. You're not supposed to be bad. You're supposed to be, helping people and doing these things. And if you do these things, this means you're a bad person. I was never a great student in school, especially when I was young. Okay. And I used to get called a bad student. I was bad. I was a bad student. I had ADHD. I had dyslexia. They didn't know what that stuff was back then. They just thought I was a troubled student. Well, I was bad. I was punished all the time. Instead of actually being looked at and trying to understand me, they punished me for being a bad student, especially when I was in Catholic school. The nuns were like, "You're a devil child. You're the devil child." And they would pound me on my head and do all sorts of things. What, for being a child with challenges that I knew nothing about and relying on adults? So you see that's a perception. There is no good or no bad. In their eyes, I was a bad student. I got poor grades because I couldn't read well. I got poor grades because I couldn't understand what they were teaching me. And because of my hyperactivity, I couldn't focus. Does that make me a bad person? Nope. But hey, in a world of good and bad, compared to someone else who's getting straight A's, I'm a bad student. And what do you think that sets us up for? It sets us up for life thinking. It sets us up for insecurities. It sets us up for ourselves thinking that there is this world of good and bad. That there's this fine line. If you better do this, otherwise you'll be a good person and you'll get into this special place. And if you don't do these things, then you're a bad person and you go to another place. This type of thinking is backwards. And if you want to think that people, things, and entities are good and bad, well, hey, you know what? It makes for a great movie, but it doesn't make for the reality of life. And if you have this idea that has to be able to process that there is a good and bad, you are in for a world of chaos, because this idea does not work. All right, guys, we'll be right back after these messages from I Am Evolution.
The human experience is changing, and consciousness is evolving into something higher than any of us could ever imagine. As we transform into more sentient beings, a new world of connected consciousness is taking place. Welcome to I Am Evolution, the movement in human development that transforms the human experience into a deeper consciousness through perspective and duality. Are you ready to be a part of the next stage in human evolution? Call I Am Evolution today to schedule your appointment at 561-318-0006. That's 561-318-0006. Or email us at iamevolution@protonmail.com.
All right, everybody, we are back. If you're just joining us, we are talking about the darkness within souls, and we are talking about good versus bad versus evil. And if you're just joining us, we have Caleb also on social medias, on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. If you have any questions for the show and you want to ask stuff, please feel free to hit him up, and he will relay the questions, and we'll talk about it. So, all right, guys. So there's no such thing as good, bad, and evil. This is a very limited perception in who we are. This is because we've accepted a lie. And I know I don't use that term often, but it is true. We've accepted a lie or a misunderstanding about things and ideas that we once knew about. Years ago, thousands of years ago, before the rise of certain religions and certain ways and stuff like that, we used to have a better understanding of the world and the universe and how it worked. We used to have a connection with the earth, with animals, with ourselves, with the food we ate, and we could understand the energetic ideas and the information that was traveling all over. We had connections to every point in the world. Now we are so disconnected because of these false ideas and the information that has been presented to us of having people in the world that has been controlling the human experience for a couple thousand years now and limiting your idea of the truth. And so what the ideas of things that used to help us and transform us and allow us to grow now are bad for you. They're evil. They're dark because people don't want you to grow. They want you to be submissive to an idea and to them. And as long as you are submissive to this idea, they will remain in power. And so, no, we don't understand this. We don't understand why we do things. We don't understand why things happen. We associate things like people hurting each other, people doing, with good and bad and evil. Whenever we see a mass murder, what do we say, right? We say, oh, that person's evil. That like let's say like we have the Hitlers or the Saddam Hussein. Oh, that person's evil. There's evilness in him because of what they did. But if we truly understood the way the universe works, then we understand that souls have to come in here to create such chaos that it unites us and brings us together. So no, is that soul bad? No, it came in with a purpose to do this, to teach the rest of us not to fight with each other, that unity is the better idea. And this concept and idea is what we have to start understanding. So it's easy for us to judge someone else and say, wow, that person raped someone. Wow, that person needs to be killed. It's easy for us because that is a very young, limited perception. That is us saying, I don't understand life or humanity or why we're here. And so I'm going to act out with pure, raw emotion and act with hate towards somebody that doesn't know how to love. Because, right? That's what it's about, right? When someone makes us feel bad, when someone makes us angry, we want to act out in anger. We want to act out in hate. We want to do these things because it makes us feel better. If someone angers us, I'm going to show them how tough I am. I'm going to show them, and you know what? Let's throw the book at them. Let's, good riddance to society, right? But, hey, this is how we react, because we're emotional, because we don't understand. We're not in touch with who we are anymore. We're not in touch with the planet. We're not in touch with anything. When was the last time you can go outside and connect to the earth and listen to it? I mean, truly hear what it has to say. If you can't, then you don't understand. And that's just the way we are, because we are emotional humans that do not understand. So if we look at feelings, there's good feelings, bad feelings, right? And then we associate these things. Well, flowers make me happy. Chocolate makes me happy. If I'm feeling terrible, I'm going to go run and eat ice cream because that makes me happy. So joyful is good, right? And then things like sadness, grief, scary, bad, because I don't want that. That's dark, right? I don't want to feel depressed. There must be darkness. I don't want to be angry. I mean, if there's a lot of you that are angry, right? Does that make you an evil, dark person? But how many of us judge someone else for being that way? I know in my family, and not just my family, but other people too that I know, I hear it all the time. Oh, that person's got darkness in them. Because they're angry all the time. There's just something off about that person. It's like an evilness or a darkness or a dark spot on their soul. There's no darkness. There's no dark spot on their soul. You just don't understand why we're doing it. Why is sadness, grief scary? Why is that bad? Why is joyful good? So this idea of positive and negative, which we don't understand, it's polarity, not good versus bad, because we want to be positive all the time and run away from the negatives. We want to run away from the actual things that are going to help us grow. It's the shadows, the sadness, the grief, the depression, the anger. That is what helps us grow as human beings, not being joyful all the time, not being happy all the time. Everything is in rhythm. Your heart is in rhythm. When you're out of rhythm, it's like riding a roller coaster up and down steep mountains. When you're in rhythm, it's running smooth. You can see more and experience more, but you cannot get in or you cannot get into a rhythm if you're perceiving the very shadows in your life that need you to grow. That's why most people don't understand things like hauntings or spirits or what they call ghosts. Is they don't want to understand. They watch too many movies like Annabelle and all these creepy things, and they think that once a spirit comes in, oh, I felt it was darkness. It wasn't that you felt that it was dark. It was that you didn't understand the information that was coming to you because you felt something that you couldn't see. Your ego, your mind said, oh my God, it's time for fight or flight. I can't process this information. And because I can't see it, this must be an evil spirit that's about to attack me and kill me. And boom. And we're out the door running, screaming, thinking it's horrible. Right? This is the way we operate. When we feel something that we don't understand, or we have information that we don't understand, then it's misinformation, and we automatically have an assumption that it's bad, or it's evil, or it has a dark spot. And it's usually towards people that we don't understand. If you cannot give compassion towards those people that do what you think is wrong in this world, then you are not evolved, and you do not understand how the consciousness and why life happens the way it is. For someone to have true consciousness means that we have compassion and understanding for all things, all living things, whether it's the tiniest insect or the biggest person in the world. Not just who we pick and choose we want to. Oh, let's love this person because this person makes me feel good and this person makes me happy. But I'm going to, not care about this person because they hurt me or they made me feel bad. So they must be evil. I mean, do you guys remember ancient times? Oh, I know you don't, but I'm just talking. You know how there's ancient times. And back then, because we didn't understand, I'm going to get into this again a little bit later, but remember how we used to think that every time there was, and I'll get into this again, but remember how we used to think that every time that someone had a mental health challenge that they were evil and possessed and we wanted to do an exorcism on them? It's because why? We didn't understand what was going on. We didn't know about mental health challenges. We didn't know about things like bipolar and depression and DID, and that these things range back far as we can remember. Trust me, they do. But because we didn't understand it, we thought even illnesses, when the Black Plague came out and the doctors, the ones that wore the plague doctor mask, they used to stuff herbs in there because they thought the air was evil. It was evil chi. There was an evilness to the air, and the herbs were going to filter it out. Was the air evil? No, it wasn't. It wasn't evil. It was the fact of the matter is that the air had nothing to do with it. It was the virus that had something to do with it. It wasn't the fact that someone is possessed by a demon or a ghost. It was schizophrenic or bipolar or whatever the disease, whatever the challenge, the mental health challenge is. So are you guys understanding now a little bit about how the misinformation and how we're not taught can put us into a situation where when we don't understand something, our ego makes us run rampant with silly ideas? There is a lot of people that associate things and perceive things because they don't understand it. There is no positive or negative. There is no good or bad. I know you have a hard time with that because it's so ingrained in your mind because you've accepted it as the truth. Now imagine if you allowed yourself to grow, and what I was telling you, you would say, you know what, that person's right. Miss Raina is right. I have been misunderstood. I'm going to accept what Miss Raina is saying as truthful now. And I don't want you to just accept it, but I'm just saying, what if you opened your mind to new ideas and you said, you know what, let me try it. And all of a sudden you realize, wow, what she's saying is truthful. And all of a sudden you were able to let go of all. You know how much your life would change? You know, all the ideas, all the chaos, all the anger, all the animosity that would just instantly fall away. It would just instantly fall away. Everybody in life is capable of anything. When it comes down to it, if you need to fight for your life, you will do what you have to fight for your life. Does that make you evil? Does that make you dark? No. Whether it's defense or not. People need to understand that. And that is why we look at the things we do. But the sad part of the way the world works today is just we associate so many things. We associate movies, we associate things we hear, we associate experiences, we hear YouTube channels, oh, the evilness within this killer. And then we hear things, oh yeah, this person was cold-blooded, this person was this. Well, yeah, I mean, maybe if you look at it that way, but I look at it as that's a young soul that doesn't know how to love yet. And they don't. They don't, just like you. Why are you in anger? Why are you in pain? Why are you in animosity? Why do you refuse to see things in certain ways? Because it's a lack of love, whether it's towards yourself or towards someone else. When you're unwilling to forgive, when you're unwilling to move on or experiencing new ideas or grow, it's because you choose to not love over love. Because you can watch all the scary movies, you can think everything's real, but the fact of the matter is it's either love or not love. And that's the point, right? Because this point right now is the education era. It is the information. For thousands of years, we have been lost in the darkness. You want to say the Dark Ages? The Dark Ages was basically, in my mind, from like the year like 1980 all the way down to, when the Dark Ages started. Because when they chose to close down humanity and make it from both men and women ruling to just men ruling, and close down the information and stop you from connecting to the earth and yourself, and telling you it's evil, telling you that all these things that people were doing to connect to the herbs and herbs are bad for you and everything like that. When we stop that is the true dark era. But guess what? Now we are in an era of education. And how lucky, how awesome is that? We are totally in an amazing era. We have the internet right here at our fingertips. And yes, I know it's controlled by the government and it's very, very restrictive, but you can still find stuff. You can still educate yourself on stuff. And if you want the true internet, then learn to connect with yourself. And I promise you, and I'm not lying to you, I promise you, if you can learn to connect with yourself, you can learn all this. Everything that I teach people, you can learn all this by opening up. You have to raise the vibration. You have to be willing to change yourself and the way you're thinking, and realize that this type of idea, these type of information is out there, and realize that all this era, all this stuff over the last 2,500 years, it's an end of an era. It's over. Let's get away from the false belief systems, the lies. Let's get away from things like, oh, all the animals on the world, fit on a ship, or one person did this and it was able to, let's get away from the ideas that we've been taught and open up, connect to ourselves again, connect to humanity, and feel and see the information out there. I guarantee you, if you are able to connect, your whole life is going to change. The way you think, the way you process things, the things you used to believe are going to wash away. It's not Miss Raina doesn't read books. Miss Raina doesn't do this. It's not that I come up with this stuff. I am teaching you the information that I get from the other side. That's it. That's all I'm doing. It doesn't make me any wiser than you. All I'm doing is relaying the information that I get to you guys. That's it. It's that easy. And think of the things that you can do with this information. I say, let's end the era of people, just believing in all these false things. Let's actually work towards an idea of humanity where we're able to do it. Because aren't we coming into like the age of Aquarius? Aren't we in the age of Aquarius? I mean, every era is about 2,500 years, right? So we're at an end of an era. We're losing ideas. It's not the fact that people are losing faith in like a god or goddess or a universe or this or that. It's just that we're realizing that the things people believed 2,500 years ago aren't necessarily true today. I mean, right? In medicine, we don't believe that people are possessed anymore. We now know that there's mental health challenges. In medicine, we don't think that there's evilness going around, floating around the air. We know there's viruses and bacterias and all sorts of stuff, right? So as we grow, as we open up, we have to understand this. We have to be able to do this. We have to be able to understand what we're looking at. Because if we want to understand how the consciousness works, how the consciousness of the planet is, then we're going to have to be able to grow. So let's talk about the ideals of demons, okay? Are they real? Are they not? What is this? Are angels real? Are not? Because whether we call them spirit guides or angels or archangels or demons or devils or gods, are they real? Well, it depends on what your perception is. If you're talking about the ugly goats with horns and these punishable places and good versus bad and fighting, then no, they aren't real. If you're talking about, these ideas of energies that are created by self, because remember, we are self. We are God. We really are. We are the universe. We are the source. We're not separated from. And that's what you really have to learn. Because when you realize that self has put different dimensions and different things in there, different ideas and different structures in there, and then all of a sudden they created these other energies to hold down those structures and to run test and to do different things, well then I guess we could say archangels are real then, right? Because that would be technically what archangels are. Because if you have a source and then you have 9 dimensions and then these energies hold those dimensions and hold the tests and everything that those dimensions and those type of ideas have to run through in order for separation so they don't all run together, and you want to call them archangels, then call them archangels. But at the same time, you have to realize that for every side, that there's a duality side, right? It's not that archangels are positive and demons are negative. They're not, because those energies are the shadow workers. We've created this tool, this idea of devil and demons to control the human mind, to stop you from growth, to make you say, oh, well, I have to be good, otherwise I'm going to get tortured by these evil things. They're not evil. They're not bad. Actually, they're helping you all the time. Even though every day you call them what you call them, they still are willing to help you. Why? Because it's not They're not trying to control fear. They're not trying to create a control and punishment for people. This is your own imagination. This is your own misinformation from society. Gods, angels, so spirit guides, fairies, whatever you want to call them. And that these ideas are held by certain vibrations. Every dimension, 1 through 9, has a vibration, and those vibrations have to be controlled by other sources. And so energies were put in part into those sources to control them. And then those sources have a counterpart, because how are we going to learn something if we don't have a counterpart? This is the way everything works. So now instead of we have 9 dimensions, but we have 18 sides to those dimensions. Why? Because they have to be duality. They have to have a positive and a negative. You call it negative, you call it evil, but these beings are your shadows. They are trying to show you, hey, in order for you to grow, you have to go through pain. You have to go through suffering. In order for people who murder have to grow, they have to go through suffering. We'll be right back after these messages from I Am Evolution.
The human experience is changing, and consciousness is evolving into something higher than any of us could ever imagine. As we transform into more sentient beings, a new world of connected consciousness is taking place. Welcome to I Am Evolution, the movement in human development that transforms the human experience into a deeper consciousness through perspective and duality. Are you ready to be a part of the next stage in human evolution? Call I Am Evolution today to schedule your appointment at 561-318-0006. That's 561-318-0006. Or email us at iamevolution@protonmail.com.
All right, everybody, we are back for the third and final part of the show. If you have any questions, Caleb is on social media right now, and all the social medias. Please hit him up, and he will relay the question. But as always, if you guys are watching the show afterwards, please email us, and we'll have the information at the end. So back to what we're saying. So these energies are created by us, because we're the source. We are the source. We're not an extension. So many of them. And I was having this conversation with a good friend of mine this weekend. We are not an extension of the source. If we look at our hairs, are these hairs an extension of us? No, they are us. In order for us to feel and touch, are our fingers extension of us? No, our fingers are us. How do we experience and feel and that? Yes, they're a part of us, but they are us. It's not separate. So we have to understand that all these energies and all these different things are us. The only thing that we don't understand is ourselves. And that's why we buy into these ideas that people are bad, people are evil, there's evil demons, there's a devil, because we've heard lies, we've heard information that people have twisted, made it into something that they can control others by so that they can have power, and people fall into it. Every level, in order for us to grow, we have to understand all the chakras inside of our body, all 9 of them. And then of course, they double, and those double, and then those double. So we have like 72 different levels. Plus, we have to understand the 9 dimensions and everything. Why do you think we have so many lives? So most people don't even realize that you have 7 chakras in the body. Then you have 2 down below. You have 1 above. You have so many different, and then they double into positive and negative, not good or bad, but duality, positive energy, negative energy, so that they can work in duality. And then they end up doubling because you have to work at certain things. So this education brings us to the understanding that, yes, people may do some really terrible things. And, I am not to judge someone for doing something. I cannot judge someone for murdering someone. Who am I to do that? I've murdered people in my past lives. I've done things in my past lives that haven't been the greatest, most wonderful things in the world. I've had some amazing lives too, where I've been, I don't want to say saint-like, but like on the straight and narrow, where I've been so good according to standards that I should, be in heaven and get the gold crown. So why should I be judged just like you? Because you will have lives like that where you do stuff like that. And you don't want people judging. All it does, or you've had them. All it does is make sure that we're working through every level of the chakra system, every level of the dimensions, so that we can move towards the 5th and 6th dimension, so that we can move towards all the dimensions and master them and understand who we are as self. Because life is one question. Who am I? That is life. And in that question, it asks other questions. What can I be? What can I experience? What is this experience going to bring me? If I do this, what am I going to experience out of that? So every person in this world is coming towards one goal. Who am I? So everything that you're experiencing, all these ideas created by life, all these limitations, all these lies have been put here in place for us to understand, who am I? And that's why you believe in this. Without you believing in all these lies and falling for them for so many lifetimes, until one day you recognize, oh my God, these things aren't true, you will continue to work through those things. That's why they're answering the question, who am I? What am I experiencing? Where am I going? What is this going to bring me to? Because if we all had the same experience at once, we wouldn't understand anything, right? So these ideas hold up boundaries, hold up rules, hold up lessons. If you take, like, let's say, for example, Archangel Michael, which in the Catholic religion, they all know, right? It's just an image, an energy, right? It holds up the lessons of that dimension in order for that. And if you want to call it Archangel Michael, if you want to call it anything else, whatever another religion calls it, or spirituality, if you want to call it whatever, or just orb number 2 for all you know, and that whatever you want to call it, that's the energy that's presenting. Are they human looking? No, they're not. Because in truth, we are orb shape. We are spherical. Because when you go back, you're not going to have this nice creamy body anymore. You are going to be conscious. You are going to be orbed in shape. And that's where we're going to be. So these beings are helping us advance both sides. The demon side, which would be deemed as negative, or the shadow side, and the good side, or you guys would say, or the other side, the positive side. It's the archangels, the angels, all those spirit guides, fairies, all those people. And those energies will be helping us the same way. It's the fact that we just want to be happy all the time because we don't understand that our shadows, our misery, our pain and suffering teach us the greatest lesson. And because we victimize ourselves to it, we think that demons and these people that are pushing us to grow are bad. And all the people that are hugging us all the time and sprinkling us with light and blue lights and green lights and flowers and everything are good. Those are the guys I want to be around, right? You don't want to be around people like Miss Raina that teach you, to make you face the truth, that have to do the dark shadow work, right? We want to be around the YouTubers that smile, that have the pretty face and the great bodies and that smile all the time and tell you what you want to hear. That stuff isn't helping you. Yeah, I may not be the most popular person or the most popular teacher ever. Why? Because the job is not a popular job to teach the truth. If why do you think you go on YouTube and you see some people that have no clue what they're talking about? They'll have millions of followers because they're good looking and they know how to talk and they make cool stuff, but they're not helping. And that is why we look at the things we do. So remember, good, evil, dark souls, there is no such thing as that. There is absolutely no such thing. The number 666, it is not a devil number. The number, 666 is a number of transformation. It is a number of death. And that because we understand that death is, but it's a number of transformation of ideas, life. The number 666 comes in our life a lot when we have huge transformations, end of a relationship, end of an era, end of a cycle in your life. Does that mean the devil's in your eyes and lurking out with its pitchfork and trying to get you? No, it does not mean that. It is an idea that was told to you because People don't want you to advance. And I know that's hard for a lot of you to understand, but there are a lot of young souls that are unconscious, that don't want to advance, that want control over people. And because you're a good person, I would say a nice person, and you trust ideas. Just because these ideas are told to you doesn't mean they're true and there. So you fear it. You fear 666. How many times do you see in the movies, you see the pentagram from the Wiccans and pagans, and it's upside down and it's the devil? The pentagram isn't that. The pentagram represents earth, air, fire, water, and metal. Or spirit, and that. So so, you know, if we really understood the true information, we wouldn't allow ourselves to be caught up in that. If you feel like these ideas are running you and that, then change your vibration. Learn to work with what we call demons. I call them shadow workers. And that learn to just don't look at the pretty lights and say, oh, I just want to be part of spirit guides and angels and fairies and all this stuff. And I don't want anything to do with the demons or the people that are going to make me cry, because I cry enough and I'm done crying. Well, you know what? You wouldn't have to, if you wouldn't fight it, you wouldn't constantly be stuck in a state of that type of emotion. So think about the things that I'm saying to you, and that just because something makes you happy doesn't make it good. Just because something makes you feel terrible doesn't mean it's bad. Just because people do some things that we don't understand doesn't mean they're evil or bad. And I get it. There are some people that do some pretty messed up things out there. I'm into all the psychology of people who murder, people who rape. I read on that stuff. I look at that stuff all the time. So I get it. There are some people, and I know your plight. You're gonna say, well, Miss Raina, how can you sit there and say this person who did this to these people and had no emotion and really did it, how can you say they're not evil? They're not. They just don't have love in them. And that's the difference. When you truly understand that everything that people do, when they lie, they cheat, they steal, they kill, they murder, they ditch out, they do whatever, they act shady, it's always a lack of love. The whole goal of figuring out who am I is realizing self in the vibration of love. Period. When you can come back to self, back to unity, and understand that vibration that's high of love, and you've worked through all your processes, then you understand who you are. That's why I say there is no right or wrong. There is no right way of a path. There is no wrong way. That's why, people fight over religion and spirituality. Oh, religion is this and spirituality is this. And people make fun of each other back and forth. Oh, you don't believe in Jesus. Well, you're going to hell. Oh, well, you believe in God and I'm going to laugh at you. And that there is no right or wrong way. Everybody is working towards a path of self. Everybody in their own way, no matter how crazy it seems, even the murderers and rapists and thieves and people who do all the crazy stuff, even them, they are working to a path towards self. They are trying to understand who they are and where they're at in their life and where they're at in their evolution. And the only way they can figure that out is by doing those things and going through those things. And as I've said before, do not judge someone else because you've done them too. And I guarantee you, if I could snap a finger and have you remember all your past lives, you would be surprised and shameful for some of the things you did, because you would look at it as, oh my God, I can't believe I was like that. That's why I'm being punished now, right? And no, nobody gets punished for what they do. It's the path of understanding self. So it doesn't matter if they're part of the Catholicism religion or part of a Buddhist or part of, Muslim, or if they're a Wiccan or a pagan or a witch. It doesn't matter. Everybody is trying to find self in their path. If you want to believe in a God or a source, go ahead. It's not going to hurt you. If you don't want to believe in it, it's okay. There's no right or wrong. And that's what a lot of us get caught up in. The problem is that in religion or spirituality or people in general, you start chasing ideas because you think that they're going to release your pain. Well, guess what, people? The more advanced you become, the more pain and suffering you go through. The harder the lessons get. It's like when you go through school, first grade, kindergarten, all that stuff is easy, right? Because you're learning. And the more you advance through school, the harder the lessons get, right? Because now you know more, you understand. It's the same idea. Stop chasing these ideas that there's evil demons, evil spirits. Stop believing in all these movies that show you all these lies and all these ghost chasers that stage everything. And listen to yourself. Listen to the truth. Open up, raise your vibration, advance in who we are, advance in what you think. There's no evil that controls us. Only humans that don't know how to love control us. Only ideas that aren't of love control us. And the only person that can control you is believe in those ideas that aren't of love. All right, everybody, that is our show, and I think I got my book, my pamphlet out here. You think I should know all this, but I really hope you enjoyed tonight's show. Remember that if you have enjoyed it, please share the show, tell people about it, because the only way we're going to get our information out there is by you guys. And if you want to follow us on our Facebook, facebook.com/Transcendental Transformation. YouTube is the same thing. Visit our website, soulandspiritguide.com, and sign up for the newsletter to receive special VIP shows, hidden access, and get special guest offers when we have them. And if you have any questions, email us at transcendentaltransformations@gmail.com. And always remember to believe in yourself, and it's not our abilities or our talents that make us who we are, but it is our choices. Thank you, and have a great night.